Thank you for joining us today for another ClaritySoft Focus training session. Today is Monday, November 2nd, 2015, and today we're going to be talking about ClaritySoft Offline, specifically the Quotation Report Writer. So we're going to talk a little bit about customizing quotations in the ClaritySoft Offline application. We're waiting for a few more people to roll in. So while we wait, I do always like to remind everybody that we do offer 3 free training sessions every week. Mondays at 2 p.m. Eastern, we offer our focus training session. That's what we're doing right now. And we revolve around different topics each week. So each week is going to focus on a little bit different piece of functionality. All right, so that's Mondays at 2 p.m. Eastern. Now Wednesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern, we have our intro to the desktop application. It walks you around a nice little tutorial of how to use ClaritySoft and its basic functionality. And then Wednesdays at 3:30 Eastern, we have our ClaritySoft mobile and live training session. All right, and the mobile and live training session focuses on our browser and our mobile application. And it gives you a nice little introduction to that as well. So 3 free training sessions every week. Feel free to come as often as needed. They're unlimited attendance. So you can always log into one of those webinars. Now I also like to mention now that GoToWebinar has a questions panel. So as we go through the presentation today, feel free to ask questions. We always leave time at the end for a dedicated question and answer session. But feel free to ask questions as we go along. I might not get to them right away, but I promise if nothing else, we'll get to them at the end of the presentation. All right, and a last thing I'll throw out there, if you have any questions that come up as soon as we're done training or maybe you think about it later, don't hesitate to reach out to our support team. They can be reached via phone or email. The phone number is 888-838-7487. Again, that's 888-838-7487, and their email is support@claritysoft.com. All right, guys, well, it's 2:03, so we're going to get rolling here just so I don't waste anybody's time. Hopefully you can all see my screen. And again, we're going to be talking about the Quotation Report Writer. So that's a tool we can use in ClaritySoft Offline to build and customize our company's quotations. All right. So the first thing, of course, we want to do is we want to have a quotation ready to run a report. So in this case, I've got a simple quote here. I'm going to right-click, and I'm going to go to Quotation Report. All right, and that's going to pull up the quotation reporting screen where we have my information. This is our company information, like our name, my phone number, email, and so on. All right, this information is actually going to be used in our quotations. We'll talk about this here in a second. Down below, you're going to see some templates. All right, so these are existing report templates that we can use. Now for new users, I usually recommend grabbing one of the original 3 quotations that come in there. I believe you have quotation 1, quotation 2, and sample quotation report. And we modify one of those reports instead of creating one from scratch. That can be a little bit easier for new users. So what we're going to do today is we're going to open up quotation 1 here. We're going to modify it, and then we're going to go to Save As, and we're going to save it with a different name. That way we've got these default reports to lean back on in case we mess something up or it's not quite what we expected and we want to go back to the original. Well, we always have those original templates that we can fall back on. All right. So from here, I'm going to go ahead and click on Quotation 1, and I'm going to come down here and click on Edit Report. All right, Edit Report is going to bring up the report writer for me. From here, we see the quotation report in what's known as Designer View. Okay, if we look here in the bottom left corner, we can see Designer View, Preview, HTML, scripts, and so on. All right, so this designer view is where we actually make modifications to the report. If I click on Preview down here, it's going to give me an example of what that report's going to look like. So in this case, we've got the quotation here at the top, who it's submitted to. This is coming from the contact and account for this quotation. Submitted by, and this includes the information from the My Contact details. All right. There's that address, excuse me, there's that address that we brought over. And then down below here we have our products and services line by line with some headers, a total price, and then at the very bottom we've got a signature line and an area down here below where we can enter in some legal information. Okay? So we're going to flip back over to Designer View. And at first I like to introduce you to some of the tools over here on the left. Now we're going to hit a couple of the most popular ones here. So a label, that's in the top left here where you see the blue A. A label is in its most basic form a text box. Alright, so we see here quotation, this is a label. Submitted by, that's a label. And then over here we see my details, my name, and so on. That's a label as well. But this label is what is known as being data bound. It's data binded. Anytime you see that little orange cylinder, that means that there's some kind of information coming into a report from that label. Alright, so submitted by, that's just a traditional label where we put some text on the report, but then this one is data bound, and we'll talk a little bit about that more in a minute. Alright, we've also got over here a rich text field. You can use this to just enter in text. If you have a big amount of text you want to put in, like some legal information down here at the bottom, you could use a rich text field if you want. Rich text and label are often interchangeable. So if you just want to use a label down there as well, you can. Alright, then we have a picture box if we want to insert an image here into our quotation. We have a table. This table tool is very useful for creating well-structured layouts like we see down here. This header is a table and the item below it is a table. We're actually going to go through and recreate these so we can walk through that process together. We also have a line. That's a nice simple tool to draw lines if you want to break areas of a report down into different categories with a physical barrier where we can draw a line. Of course, we can insert shapes, barcode, zip code. We've got a bunch of other tools down here. And then down here at the bottom, excuse me, I apologize today, guys. Got a little bit of a sore throat. So we see down here at the bottom a crossed band line. All right, and that just simply means a line that can go across these bands. Now we haven't talked about bands yet, but a band lets me separate areas of my report out. All right, so let's break these down really quick. We see report header band 1. 1 band per report. Okay, so this is our report header. There's only going to be one in the entire report. Okay, below that we have a page header band. We're going to see one of those per page. Okay, so if my report is long enough to go onto multiple pages, we'll see this header again. Alright, then we have a detail band. This is what captures the details there in the middle. In this case, those are going to be our line items. We have a group footer. Our group footer is going to include our total price. It's a signature line down here. And then we have a page footer band. Those again, 1 band per page. And that's going to show at the bottom of every page then, in this case, the date and the number of pages here. Okay? So bands separate our reports out into different areas. Now I wanted to go back a little bit to that data bound field. I keep wanting to say data binded. So that's a data binded field. So if we come up here to my details dot, in this case it would be my company name, I can click on this little white arrow and it's going to give me a window here where I can look at the data binding. In this case I can click on the drop down and see where that information is coming from. Okay, so we see it's coming from my details. That's the information we type in at the quotation report, and it's pulling, in that case, my company. Okay, so that's a data bound field. Now, you're also going to see these fields on the far right-hand side under my field list. We go over here to the Report Explorer on the right-hand side and we click on the Field List tab. You're going to see that similar layout where we see my details, contact details, account details, and so on. So just for an example here, if I wanted to bring over my city, I can click and drag that field over. And I'm going to see that here in my list. Okay, now if we go over here to a preview, we're going to see the city name there, Columbus, that's where we're located, right in the top of that report. But check out this black line under it. What's up with that? Let's talk about that next. That is a border. So we're going to flip back over here to, and in the designer view, I can click on that label and then come over here to the bottom right hand corner where we see property grid. All right, this property grid houses all the information about that field. Okay, there's a lot of information there, so don't get intimidated. All right, we're going to take things easy. We're just going to look for where it says borders. All right, and we see where it says borders, it says bottom, so there's a border along the bottom. If I click into that cell and get the little drop down, you can see that the bottom is highlighted. If I click on the top and the left here maybe, when I go to my preview, we're going to see we've got borders along 3 sides there, right? Pretty easy. So we're going to take away the borders there. So we're going to click on that, go back over here to borders, and we're going to click none. And now when I preview it, we shouldn't have any borders. Okay, I always like to take a second to point that out because it can be sometimes confusing for new users why they get double lines or anything like that. Always keep an eye out for those borders. Okay, so let's go ahead and remove that field now because we don't want it in this report. All right, so let's go ahead and recreate our header and our list down here below. All right, so I'm going to actually delete these tables out. And we're going to add them back in. All right, so I'm going to add a table. Now if you want, you could do this with labels as well. It's a little bit more time intensive, I think, personally, but you could definitely do it there. And we're going to go ahead and have, we've got 3 here. Let's go ahead and extend it out one more. So we're going to add a column to this table because it only comes with 3 by default. So we're going to click on the little arrow here. Whoops. We're going to go ahead and right click in there. And we're going to insert a column. All right, and it doesn't really matter at this point if it inserts to the left or the right. We're just going to insert in there. Okay, we've got the correct number of columns now. So we're going to go ahead and resize these, match it up with the rest of our report. All right, that looks good, and maybe about there. Okay, so we've created the table. Now we need to go ahead and put in our text here because this is just our header. So I'm going to double click on the first one here, and this one's going to be our quantity. All right, double click into the next, and that's going to be our solution. Now in this case, a solution is our item name. And the third one, we're going to go ahead and put list price. Let's put unit price. I like that better. All right, and then the fourth one here, we're going to call this extended price. Now extended price is going to be the summation of our quantity times our price. Okay, that's going to be our extended price. But these are kind of boring how they are here. They're just kind of dull, so we're going to add some flair here. We're going to go ahead and make them centered. So we come up here to the top. We have our standard tools that we can apply to the table. So let's go ahead and center those. Let's go ahead and make them bold and underlined. I think I like that. Yeah, it looks good. Let's make them a little bit bigger. So we're going to change the font size to 12. Okay. And now that we've changed that, we're going to just adjust our spacing a little bit back here. I'm pretty particular. You're going to learn this about me in these reports. So now we have our headers here, and you know, why don't we take that a step further and add a little color in. All right, so I clicked on the table. If you don't see what I'm doing here, I click on this little white box with the 4-way icon in it, and that's going to select the whole table for me. Okay, we're going to go back over here to the bottom right to where we see our property grid. And let's change that background color. Let's go ahead and maybe make that light gray. How does that look? Yeah, it looks all right. Yeah, it looks all right. Maybe you want to add some blue in there instead. Why don't we come down here and let's grab some sky blue. How does that look? Good enough. All right, so we can go ahead and change the background color. We could change the text color if we want to. I'm not going to do that in this report because I think the black looks nice there, so we're going to leave that alone. Okay, so now we've built out our headers. That's the first and simple part. All right, next thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to put in that table for our line items. Okay, so I'm going to click on the table again, and I'm going to draw another one here. And we're going to right click and we're going to insert a column. So we got 4 columns, and then we're going to match up our sizing here. Keep things consistent. All right. Now we have those filled in, and we're going to go ahead and center those as well. And now is where we get into the good stuff. Okay, now we're going to get into the data binding. So if I click into one of these cells, just on one cell this time, not the whole table, I can click on that cell and click that little white arrow again. And we can come over here to data binding. We're going to click that drop down. Okay, and this time we're going to look at the quotation item details. Okay, quotation item details, and we're going to look at the item quantity. Okay, so we got item quantity. Next, for the solution, we're going to go ahead and bind that, and that's going to come from the item details as well. All these in this table are going to come from the item details, and that's going to be item name. All right, we're going to come over here to the unit price column. Let's go ahead and bind that one. That one's going to be item price. So we're going to come down here to item price. All right, and then the extended price, let's go ahead and do that one. Quotation item details, that should be item total. All right, item total. So as this comes out, it's going to grab the item quantity, the item name, the item price, and the total for each line item. Okay, and let's go ahead and we're going to recreate this price one too. So I'm going to delete that label out of there for a second. Let's preview this, guys, to make sure everything looks good. Let's click on preview. And it looks good there, but I don't like these lines. Well, remember, that's where we're coming with some borders. I got a double line here. So let's go back to our designer, click on that table, and we'll notice that there's a border for that table. So if I click on none, it's going to remove that. I preview it, and it's going to look a little bit better here. Now we've got a line under our table here, and then this is just a standard line that we've got added here, separating the two. So that's not actually a border on that one. Okay, and let's pop back over to our designer, and let's add that one in here for total price. Okay, so I'm going to come up here to label, and I'm going to go ahead and insert a label here. Line it up with a grid if you'd like, and I'm going to bind that again. Actually, let's show you another way to do that since I've been showing you the other way of the table. So I'm going to delete that out. We're going to come over here to our field list, okay? And we can come up to the quotation details and the quotation total. So that's quote total. We can click and drag that over. And if I click preview, we see 7,000 plus 795 equals 77.95. All right, so that looks good. We go back here to our designer. Now, guys, I want to show you another way we can handle some of these situations, and that's with a tool called a calculated field. Okay, you may or may not be familiar with these, but we can add a field in that allows us to do calculations. So, for instance, instead of doing quantity, instead of grabbing this item total field, maybe I want to manually calculate that for some reason or another. We can do that. So in that case, we're going to come up here to our quote item details. We're going to right click. We're going to add a calculated field. All right, that's going to bring this calculated field 1 in. Now if I click on calculated field 1, I can come down here to the property grid and change the display name. So let's call this extended price. Okay. Now below that display name, we can see the expression. Alright, so if I click into the 3 ellipse button there, it's going to bring up my expression editor, or we have a lot of tools at our disposal. So in this case, we're going to go to our fields, and we're going to grab item quantity. There we go. Double click on it to bring it up, and we're going to multiply it by the item price. Alright, so this field is going to be equal to the item quantity times the item price. You guys see kind of where I'm going with this? We can add in a lot of logic to these. Now we can go ahead and click OK, and we've saved that field. Now this item total field, instead of binding it to the item total, we could bind it to our field called extended price. Alright, and then if I click preview, and if I did everything correctly, it looks like I did, we're going to get the same numbers there for that calculated field. Okay, but let's take a look at some formatting, because we don't have any percent, or I'm sorry, we don't have any currency symbols or anything like that. So let's go ahead and back over to our designer. And if you're like me, you're really frustrated that this is slightly off center from those other ones. So we're going to go ahead and make the field the full size, and we're going to go ahead and center it. And that should line up a little bit better now. If we preview that. There we go. Sorry guys, that was bugging me. I like those lined up. Let's pop back over to Designer and let's do some formatting. Okay, so if I click on my item price here, and I'm going to click on that little white box again, I can come down here to Format String. Okay, Format String. And there, I'm going to format this as a currency, and I can choose if I want decimals or not. In this case, it's all full numbers, so we're going to go no decimals. We're going to do it again here. White arrow, format string, currency, no decimals. Alright, and we're going to do it one more time down here. Format string, currency, decimals. While we're here, take a look at these other ones we can do. We can make it a date, time, number, percent, currency, special, or a general field. So we're going to go with currency here. And if I click on preview, then we see we now have dollar signs in there. Okay. So we can use that format tool to customize those prices. I'm sorry, to customize our formatting for those prices. Alright? Alright, so we went through and we restructured our table. We re-entered our line item list. Let's say that this quotation is ready to go. All I need to do is come up to File, and again, Save As. Alright, we're going to save it with a new name. And we're going to call this one Quote Training Reports. Okay, I click on Save. Now when I exit out of the designer here, I've got Quote Training Report here at my disposal. I can click on Preview Print, and it's going to give me a preview here. Or if I click on To Email, it's going to pull up the file name, and I can go ahead and save it as a PDF, and it's going to let me email it to that contact. In this case is our dummy database, so you've got a generic email in there. But if I was emailing this to Bob Smith, and his email in my system is bsmith, it's going to pull it up and throw his email right there where I can send it off. Okay? And don't forget to get creative with these quote report guys. So if I click on that and click on edit, let's say from the desktop I actually want to send out invoices. Well, they could really be the same thing. I could just come up here, double click on this one, and call it an invoice. Alright, File, Save As, and we're going to call this an invoice report. Now I can go ahead and run that invoice report. And we're going to see, of course, we see invoice there. We can format that to bring it over to the right a little bit more if it's bugging you guys like it is me. But I think you guys get the idea there. Don't be afraid to get creative with these reports so you can use them, in many different manners. Okay. So I'd like to go ahead and open up the floor for questions now, guys. If you have any questions on anything I did here today, maybe I went over something too quickly, or maybe something I didn't show you, right? Don't hesitate to ask questions. I got that pulled up here now. So while I'm waiting for those questions, I'm just going to be a little bit OCD here, clean some of this stuff up a little bit. This is what you're going to find too with these reports is if you're like me, I like building these reports and just making them look nice. So we can come in here and do all kinds of stuff like that. One thing also I'll mention here while we're typing up those questions, if you click into one of these tables and you come down here to padding, you'll see it's 0000. That's the padding around the outside. So I believe the first one here, if we put in 2, it's going to move it to the left. We don't want that. We want to move it. I want to move those labels down a little bit. So you're going to have to forgive me because I can't remember which one of these is which. It looks like the first one is to the right. The second one here is to the left. Our third one here then should be down. So let's go ahead and throw a 3 in there. All right, and you see it brought those labels a little bit away from that top bar, a little more centered here. We could even go 4 into this padding field and bring it a little bit better. All right, so don't be afraid to dive in and play around with some of these. You can make sure you always have it saved with a different name, and you should be all right. Okay, I got a question here now. So let's go ahead and let me read these here. Great question from Betsy. All right, Betsy said, what needs to happen to make the report available for the rest of the staff? All right, that's super easy. These reports are stored locally, meaning they're just saved on your own personal computer as of right now. All we need to do is go ahead and copy and paste those into an email and shoot them off. So we're going to go through that process right now. Okay, we're going to go to Help and then to ClaritySoft Files. All right, and pay attention to this right here, guys, because this is where you're going to get access to a lot of your templates or any of your report templates, stuff like that. You go to Help and then ClaritySoft Files. All right, and it's going to bring up a Windows Explorer. In here, we've got all of our template folders like HTML templates. Those are our email templates stored locally. In this case, we're going to come down here to Quotation Reports. All right, and there's all our quotation reports. In this case, the one we created today, I just right-click, copy that bad boy into an email, send it off, and just for an example, I'll cut it out of there. And then let's say we're now on the receiving end, I just got this email, all I need to do is click and drag it into that folder. So again, Help, ClaritySoft Files, then I go to the quotation reports, and then I could click and drag it, or I could paste that report back in here. Okay? So to share those, it's just a simple copy and paste. All right. I had another question here from Robert. He said, please review initial getting to the report. My connection missed the initial first few seconds. All right, Robert, so just to re-clarify that again, to get that area, you're just going to click on a quote and right-click and go to Quotation Reports. And here you're going to see those templates where I can click on one, and clicking on Edit is going to allow me to edit that report. All right. All right, guys, do we have any other questions? We still got plenty of time if we want to go over any other questions. We can talk a little bit about customizing those reports some more, or maybe some features if you have any questions on how to put a picture in or how to hyperlink an image. Those are both pretty simple. If I click on this picture box, I'm just going to go through this while you guys are typing up those questions. And I'm going to go ahead and just throw a picture box in here. I click on that picture box, come over here to my property grid, and I'm going to scroll down to where it says data. Now for an image, I could either, if I have a direct image URL, that's if the image is hosted online, I could put the address of that URL there, or I could click into this image field, click on the ellipses, and then let's go ahead and grab that guy, and we'll shrink our box up a little bit. Again, formatting, and let's put it up here in place of our logo. Alright, now in this case I would probably use an image that's sized correctly for this. This image is kind of small, but it'll get the job done for us, right? So I'm going to click on that image, and let's say I want to hyperlink that image. So if someone were to view my PDF and click on that image, it's going to take them to my website. Okay? Well, I click on that box, come over here to the far right hand side under our picture box, and we're going to go down here to navigation URL, and in here I'm going to put claritysoft.com. Alright, now I'm going to go ahead and save this as our quote training report. Alright, exit out of there. Let's go ahead and run that. So if I click on there it is. Lost it for a second. Quote training report. And let's go ahead and send that. Let's go ahead and save that as a PDF, and so we can take a look at what it's going to look like. We're just going to throw that on our desktop. And we're going to go ahead and click on Save PDF. Alright, it's going to pull it up for me. We see here that ClaritySoft image that's got that border there hanging out with it, but I can click on that ClaritySoft image, and that's pulling up over here on my other screen for us the website that we directed it to. Alright, so we just hyperlink that image. Alright guys, well, I'm not seeing any other questions at the moment, but if you have those questions, please type them up for me. If not, we're going to go ahead and wrap things up for today. I know I threw a lot of material at you at once, so hopefully you don't get too intimidated by that. But this is one of those tools, which by the way, if you're not familiar with this tool, this is the DevExpress Report Writer. So DevExpress is a very popular report writer built into a lot of other systems in the industry. It's very helpful for building reports in. So this is the DevExpress Report Writer. If you have, the best way to learn this tool, and this is actually honestly the way I learned it, is just to dive in with both hands, right? As long as you're saving it with a different file name, you can play around and customize these to your heart's content. So I highly recommend just diving in and just playing around with them. If you get into a bind or you have a question, don't hesitate to reach out to our support team. I'll give you their info again before we leave here. Their phone number is 888-838-7487, and their email address is support@claritysoft.com. So don't hesitate to reach out to them. They're a great group of individuals. They can help you get up and rolling. So having said that, we're going to go ahead and wrap things up today. So guys, I thank you so much for your time. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week, and hopefully we'll see you again soon. Thank you, and bye now.